Hello, my name is Dr. Ryan Anderson. I'm one of the founders of Telos U, and this webinar today is to help you learn about a really important and powerful concept called collusions. This will be something that we'll be working with your son or daughter on during their time here at Telos, and it's something that we'll be working with you on as well, because this is such an influential dynamic. So before we dive into the idea of collusions, let's just kind of give a little bit of context and think things through together. So you sent your son or daughter here to Telos because you had concerns about their well-being, both now in the present and also in the future. And there's a lot of things that have led to them having the struggles that they're having. Some of it has to do with things that have happened to them in the past. They may have experienced traumas, social struggles over many years, or struggles at school. They may have things that are happening to them now. For example, they may be experiencing depression, anxiety, OCD, other symptoms and struggles, or things going on in their lives, like a loss due to a death of someone that they care about. And they also have things that they are doing. They may be engaged in patterns of avoidance, of self sabotage, self harm. Maybe they have turned to addictive behaviors, whether in the form of electronics or in the form of chemicals. But most of our students have some kind of behaviors that they're engaged in, which you're also worried about as well, and which you want to see change. And of course, for most of our students and our families, there is some degree of tension in the interactions between our students and their parents. And that usually is related to the things the students are doing because of the things that the students are experiencing. And that often becomes an area of a great deal of concern and worry and suffering for everyone involved. And the problem is because this is the case, because we are worried and struggling and there's tension that's caused because of their interaction between you and them about their behaviors, there tends to become a cycle that develops. These maladaptive behaviors that they have, it's important to recognize, have been their attempted solutions to the physical, emotional, and social problems that they have been having. But the problem is, of course, these solutions aren't working. They're ineffective. They're not actually dealing with the problem. A lot of times they're numbing or avoiding or trying to circumvent. And therefore, the problems at the core continue to grow and fester. And of course, a lot of times the actions that they're doing to try to solve their problems are causing problems of their own. And these are things that really, really create a lot of worry and concern for parents when you see your child engaged in this kind of behavior. And you kind of just want to tell them, hey, stop, you're making things worse. But it doesn't feel that way to them. And it's nowhere near that simple to help them gain that insight and to begin to go a different direction. So as our students come to us, they're faced with a couple of very specific challenges. One of the things that we have to do is help them unlearn what they have learned. We have to help them come to understand the actual problems they're facing. We have to help them explore what led them to try their attempted solutions. Why those attempted solutions? Why not others? What is it about those that drew them in? And then we have to help them come to an understanding that their attempted solutions are actually ineffective or even harmful. And you can imagine that that can be very difficult to accept when that's the case. From there, of course, we have the task of helping them to reduce or eliminate those ineffective solutions. And then they also have to learn, practice, and become confident with using better, more effective solutions. And for that to be sustainable, they themselves have to experience and feel that the new way of doing things is meeting their needs better than their old maladaptive way of doing things. So this is not a process that happens overnight. There's a lot of steps that go into it. There's a lot of emotional ins and outs and ups and downs. It's not a smooth curve upward towards progress. It can be messy. And that's okay if we understand that's what it looks like along the way. But it's important to recognize this doesn't just happen with them on a personal level, with their own struggles. They have the same dynamics play out in their interpersonal relationships with peers, with teachers, and also in their relationships with you. So take a few moments here and just consider the following. I want you to take a moment to think about one of the struggles that your child has that underlies their behavior. So it's not, well, they lie or they act aggressively or they get angry or they're avoidant, but things like they're lonely or they have a desire for personal autonomy and they're not sure how to get it, or they want to feel powerful as an antidote to feelings of fear and anxiety that they have, or they have a desire to escape unpleasant emotions they're experiencing because they don't see a way to actually resolve those emotions. Now, when you think about that with those underlying things, now go back to thinking about the behavior and ask yourself, what has been their attempted solution to that behavior? And then compare and contrast that with your attempted solution to those needs, right? They've been trying to meet those needs by the behavior they're doing. How have you been trying to solve the problem that you're seeing? And what is the relationship between their attempted solutions and your attempted solutions? Chances are that the relationship between those two things is complicated and conflicted. And we're going to look into that a little bit. One of the things that we recognize is that a lot of times their attempted solutions becomes the problem that you are trying to solve. And your attempted solutions begin to feel to them like the problem that they are now trying to solve. And this tends to escalate and go back and forth and dig deeper and deeper and entrench. So your problem is their attempted solution. Their problem is your attempted solution. You kind of see the conundrum that this creates for you and for them. And both sides can get very stuck in doubling down on their solutions and just feeling blame for the other person for what they're doing and the way it feels like it's making the situation worse. And what is even more complicated is that both sides tend to be relatively or completely blind to their contributions of the stuckness of the situation. It's very easy to see what the other person is doing that's not working. It's very hard to see how what we're doing is not working, especially if in our minds we have good logic, good reasons. We know that our intentions are pure. We've seen these solutions work for other people. All of those things make it harder for us to ask the question, why is it not working now? And why am I trying to double down on something that clearly isn't working? So we find ourselves in a situation that we call a collusion. What we have here is a basic collusion diagram. I know it's a little bit obscured with my face, and I apologize for that. But what you have here are two different boxes. The box on the left is you. And you have the things that you're seeing, your perceptions, your thoughts, your feelings, and you have your actions. You have what your child is doing, their perceptions, their thoughts, their feelings, and the things they're doing. And as you'll notice, as the arrows between the two suggest, they are seeing what they are doing. Let me say it that way, is the problem that you see, but they see it as the solution. What you are doing is the problem they see, or at least contributing to the problem they see. And therefore, the things they're doing are trying to solve that problem. Now, you'll notice on the side, there's room for allies. When we're feeling like we're in a position where other people are adding to our burdens, it's not uncommon that we may seek out other people to validate our perceptions, our thoughts, people who will tell us that what we're doing is right, that we're seeing things correctly, and that tends to help us double down in our positions. And they tend to do the same as well. And it is human nature to feel like we must be right if we have other people who see things the way we see things and who endorse the actions that we're taking. Now let's move this beyond kind of a basic structure and look at a specific example. But before that, let's just really take a look. You notice the circular nature. There's a circular causality going on here. A lot of people say, well, where did this start? That is actually maybe less of a useful question than what keeps this going. And what keeps this going is the way you see the situation and what you do, combined with the way they see the situation and what they do, and the interaction between those two things. So let's take a very specific real world situation. Now we're going to start here in the bottom right box, because this is usually what you're able to see the most. It's what your child is doing. So what are they doing? Well, they're avoiding going to school in this situation. They're avoiding doing homework. They're spending a lot of time avoiding you as their parents. They're even lying to you about school issues, and they're locking themselves in the room on their computer all day, all night. They're neglecting sleep. It just seems like they've locked themselves away in a digital fortress. And you see this as a problem. You are worried about this. Now, your perception of the situation is, look, my child is capable of doing their work, but they're choosing not to. You've reached that conclusion. And what you're seeing feels like a waste of your resources and their potential. So you may have thoughts like, well, they're being lazy. They just need to try harder. They're not even putting any effort into their homework. They're not asking their teacher for help. They're not asking me for help. They're not accepting my help when I offer it. And so you have a variety of feelings. I've just written down two. One may be fear about their future, but also anger about their actions. You feel like they are helping to hurt themselves with the things they're doing. They are helping to undermine their future. So this feels like a problem, and it leads you to want to do something to try to solve that problem. Now, you may prompt them to do their work. Another word for this that they might use is you may nag them. You may take away their computer. You may try to instruct them about the importance of school, which they might see as something that they lovingly call a lecture. You may try grounding them. You may also tell them to do the things that you felt worked for you when you felt you had struggles with school. Because if it worked for you, it seems like it should work for them. And you may also talk with the other parent or other co-parenting partners. You may talk with their teachers. You may discuss things with a friend. And you may have a lot of them say, yeah, we're concerned about the same things. And yeah, you're right. He's such a smart boy. She's such a smart girl that, all they need to do is just kind of apply themselves. And if they could just spend half as much effort as they do into doing their work as they put into avoiding their work, they'd be done in no time. Isn't it frustrating that kids are like this? And it reinforces the way you're seeing the situation, the way you're feeling about the situation. Well, on the other side of the box, as you are prompting / nagging, taking away things / punishing, instructing / lecturing, grounding / ruining their lives, and telling them to do things that worked for you / totally not understanding them from their point of view, what they see is that school is overwhelming. There is some kind of problem there that they're experiencing. It's not imaginary. They're not making it up. It's not about being lazy. And it may be that some of the requirements in school feel arbitrary. When am I ever going to use trigonometry? Why should I have to learn this? And also, my parents, they're pressuring me. I'm already feeling pressure from school, and now I'm getting pressure from my parents too. And so they may have a variety of thoughts about this. Well, all my parents care about are my grades. They don't care about me. They don't care about how I feel. They just want me to be their perfect little toy soldier and to salute and to go off and get straight A's and make my first $1 million by the time I'm 21. Otherwise, I am an embarrassment to them. Or they're just trying to make me be just like them. They're trying to clone me. They think I should be just like them. They always tell me just to do things the way they do things. It doesn't work for me. Or, this is stupid. I'm not cut out for school. Maybe actually I'm stupid. And so they may feel unloved, misunderstood. They may feel stupid. and not good enough. They may feel shame, like they're a failure. They don't know what to do with all of these emotions. So what do? They avoid going to school. Why? Because that's where they're experiencing these things. They avoid you. Why? Because they're experiencing these things from you. They lie to try to buy distance and time for themselves. And they spend time on the computer to try to not feel what they're feeling. They may talk with some of their friends who also struggle, who will say, yeah, parents are the worst. School is stupid. Let's just drop out and be pro Fortnite gamers, or whatever they're saying. They may be encountering groups online which are talking a lot about how school is this terrible thing which destroys people's souls and it's stupid and people shouldn't have to do it. They may have other friends who don't necessarily jump on the bandwagon of saying school is terrible, but they may treat them as fragile. They may reinforce their expressions of negative emotions. There's lots of different things that they could be experiencing. So you see, the more that you try to do the things that you're trying to do as a solution, the more overwhelmed and the more they feel like their problem grows. The more they engage in the things that you see that feel completely ineffective and self-defeating and make you worry about their future. And this tends to go round and round and round and to escalate over time. Now, you may have had this exact experience, but there are different flavors to this. This was an example of a confrontational one, where the parent is trying to engage to get their child to change their behavior. But collusions can also be enabling, where you're seeing your child as weak, ineffective, too fragile, too incapable, and needing to be sheltered from the world and from the demands of their life. Or collusions can also be distancing, where you are experiencing the child as a burden to you, and your actions are now about self-preservation in the face of a child whose actions are causing you distress. Or you may ignore it. You see a problem, but you just feel busy with other things, or you're just expecting they'll figure it out or grow over it. And so you just kind of leave them alone and don't engage at all. So these are all different ways that the collusion could work. But the whole point is that whatever you are doing to try to solve your problem is contributing to the problem they're trying to solve with the thing that's self-defeating, and vice versa. There's lots of different ways this can play out. So what do we do? How do you overcome a collusion? Well, first, you have to look at yourself. In fact, that's the best place to look for any solution. And there's a couple things you need to work on. One is knowing yourself. How do you tend to think and feel? What are your hopes and dreams for yourself, for your child? What are your vulnerabilities? You have them. No matter how old you've gotten, no matter what experiences you've had in life, no matter what successes you've had, you still have vulnerabilities. And collusions tend to play upon those vulnerabilities. For example, what are some areas where you're at risk for projecting yourself onto your child, for expecting them to see the world or to feel the way that you do, and not being open to the idea that they can have a different experience? Also, most of us as parents, whether we know it or not, have certain needs that we may be trying to meet through our child. And it may be through trying to help them accomplish certain things, either to accomplish what we accomplished or accomplish what we never accomplished, or we're trying to shield them from getting hurt by something that hurt us, or wanting validation for our worth through things they do. There's lots of different ways that parents are at risk of making decisions, not because of what the child needs, but because there's some kind of need of our own that we're trying to meet through our child. The second step here is be willing to ask, well, is it possible that I'm in a collusion right now? You can't solve a collusion unless you can spot a collusion. Now, one of the things that makes this really difficult is that when we're in the middle of a collusion, we usually don't feel like we're colluding. What we usually feel is like we are right. And in fact, the more you feel absolutely right and justified, the greater the risk that you're actually in a collusion. Now, you don't need to be paralyzed by self doubt, but if you are right, there's nothing to be harmed by exploring, hey, could I be in a collusion? And being open to, hey, maybe I'm actually contributing to the problem inadvertently here is the first step towards breaking the collusion down and ending it. Now, this isn't going to work unless you've got a heart at peace or are out of the box. There's another webinar on what that means and how to do that. Also, we encourage you to refer to the anatomy of peace or the outward mindset or leadership and self-deception for more information about that. But that will be one of the tools that you'll be learning and we hope you get very good at during your time here at Telos. The third step here is to get familiar with your most common collusions. Now, there is always the possibility for getting into collusions in any situation, but especially in family relationships and with people that we're close to, we do have a tendency to have one or more common repetitive collusion cycles. In fact, I tend to call these Groundhog Day arguments based on the old Bill Murray movie where he's stuck in the same day over and over and over again. You can probably think about these. What are the arguments you've had a million times? The conflicts that have happened over and over again, where you know, well, they do this, and then I tend to do that, and then they do this. And it's like someone wrote a script and you guys are acting it out together each and every time, maybe just variations on the theme. So this is a good way to recognize, oh, this is one of our Groundhog Day topics. Going into this, I need to be particularly aware that this could easily become me following into a collusion cycle. The fourth is to explore how your attempted solutions may be adding to the other person's burden. Now, this requires some humility. I know that your intentions and what you're doing are good. And people like to be judged by their intentions, not by the outcome of their actions. But if we want to get through collusions with other people, we have to put down the question of, well, what am I trying to do? And ask the question, what are the actual results of what I'm doing? And our ability to question that, discover that, own that, take accountability for that is very powerful in helping the other person feel like it's safe for them to begin the process of trying to step back from the collusion as well. Then the next step is to really seek to understand more about the problems that the other person is experiencing that have led them to their attempted solutions, which you tend to see as the problem. So what have they been experiencing? What have they been going through that makes this make sense? What is going on with them that makes this feel like this is the best option they have access to try to deal with this situation? What other solutions have they tried? What has happened while they've attempted that? What do they see as the obstacles to trying other solutions? And it's important to do this in a very non-judgmental way. If you go into it trying to find the problems in their thinking, you'll never get there. But if you go into it saying their thinking actually makes sense from what they're experiencing, the way they're perceiving the world, this makes sense. And it's my job to figure out how this makes sense so we can figure out how to get past where we're stuck. From there, you need to seek ways to address the underlying struggles they are facing. So this means stepping back from trying to solve their behaviors and instead looking at how you can be an ally to solve the problems and struggles they are facing. So while you do that, you have to start on a level that they feel like they can agree to now. We may be suggesting something good or shooting for something good, but it may be a few steps further than what they're ready for. So be ready to take smaller steps. And it also needs to be something that they can believe right now may actually address the way they feel. It's got to make sense in their heads, in their worldview. They have to believe it. Otherwise, it's not going to work. It will fall apart. Even if it is a good plan and could work, if they can't believe it, then it's not a road that can carry them there. And also, we have to recognize that it may require knowledge and resources that are new to them and possibly even new to us as well, that we may need to seek out other allies, other options, other abilities from those who are willing to help. Now, there are a couple of overarching principles in the way that we approach collusions. One, always focus on the problem they are having, not on the problem they are giving through their behaviors. That is powerful and important. Second, empathize them and validate their feelings. That doesn't mean that you have to agree with what they're trying to do, but you really need to dig deep and understand what they've felt. And they need to see that you care about what they feel and that you're going to care about their feelings along the road to the solution as well. You need to seek to understand how their solution has made sense in their context, because that understanding is going to be crucial in building the ladder from where they are to a solution that's going to work better. Always work to repair and build the relationship. And a part of how you do that is you own how your attempted solutions have added to their burdens. You show how you care about that. You express sorrow and regret and a willingness to change and do things differently. And you show love and care and respect for them. And again, recognize that you may need to take small steps and be okay with that, but always own your part and let them see you actively working on the things that you're trying to do differently on your side of the collusion. Now, as you work on this, there are a couple of Telos tools you'll be learning along the way that can really help at different stages in resolving the collusion. These include the talking stick, the consultant pattern, the processing approach, and the relationship continuum. So as you learn these different principles, they will help you as you go through that process of helping to undo collusions as you experience them. So this is where the rubber meets the road. There's a couple things for you and your team to work on. One is for you to spend some time reflecting on the common collusions that you and your child experience. You may also notice there may be collusions between you and their other parent or parents. And those also tend to play into collusions between you and your child. So it's time to explore and begin seeing where these exist. Come to family therapy, ready to explore and map out your collusions together with your child. Be ready and willing to make changes to your contributions to the collusions. And if you find that you are feeling defensive or resistant to the idea of owning a side in a collusion, that's something to explore with your therapist to find out what's getting in the way. Also, keep in mind that as you're going through family therapy conversations, part of the therapist's job is to be a process coach, to help you notice the process going on between you, and then to shine a light, focus on that, work on that when that's becoming disruptive. So be prepared for the therapist to identify these collusions in real time during family therapy and actually press pause on the discussion of the content and focus on the process, the collusion, noticing that it's going on and helping you guys slow it down and approach things differently. Because if they just let you continue on in the collusion, they're just going to let you continue on in what's not working. So be prepared and work on trying to do that yourself actively in family therapy sessions. You can practice asking yourself that question: is it possible I'm in a collusion right now? What are the signs? What are the symptoms? How would I know? So we look forward to helping you and growing in your knowledge and understanding of collusions and in your confidence in you and your child's ability to work through them and to get into a healthier pattern that helps you and them resolve your concerns and get unstuck.